There is talk in Armenia at the moment about ratifying the Rome Statute, and this is to do with the International Criminal Court. Christoph Safferling is a professor of criminal law, international law, amongst other things, at the Friedrich Alexander University of Erlangen, Nuremberg. So, Professor, thank you very much for your time.
Good morning.
You know, there is talk in Armenia at the moment that the country should ratify the Rome Statute. This is, of course, to do with the International Criminal Court, which many observers see as a means for Armenia to hold Azerbaijan accountable for various war crimes, for example. What do we mean, first off, when we say ratifying the Rome Statute? And also, what do we mean when we say recognizing the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court?
Right. So the Rome Statute for the International Criminal Court is the fundament, the legal basis of the International Criminal Court. It's an international treaty. And if this international treaty is valid in Armenia, Armenia has to ratify, has to sign and then ratify this international treaty. This is as with any other international treaty. So the special thing with the Rome Statute is that the Rome Statute actually creates this international institution, which is called the International Criminal Court, which can actually prosecute war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide, and also under circumstances, the crime of aggression. So by ratifying the Rome Treaty, the Rome Statute, Armenia would accept these crimes as being international crimes, first of all. It would also accept that these crimes should be crimes under Armenian law as well as under international law, and it would accept the competence of the International Criminal Court to try to prosecute these crimes.
And I know this is a sort of generalist question, but what would you say are the benefits of joining the International Criminal Court?
Well, there are several benefits, I would suggest. First of all, Armenia would then become part of the Assembly of State Parties, which is these states that are like-minded and that are sort of together in the fight against impunity for war crimes and crimes against humanity. So all the member states of the International Criminal Court form this international community. And I think it would be wonderful if Armenia could join this group of states that are willing to say no to war crimes and crimes against humanity. And this is sort of, so to speak, if you want, a moral sort of consequence of joining the family of the states that are members to the International Criminal Court. And at the same time, this is also a legal signal to the world and to other states that also within Armenian territory, the jurisdiction of the ICC now applies. That means that any other state committing war crimes on the territory of Armenia faces the threat of being prosecuted before the International Criminal Court.
And Azerbaijan is nor a state party nor a signatory of the Rome Statute, as I understand. If Azerbaijan is not a party, doesn't that make Armenia pursuing channels within the International Criminal Court obsolete?
No. I mean, the consequence of Armenia joining the ICC would be that Armenian territory is within the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court. So whatever soldier, whoever comes on Armenian soil committing crimes against humanity or war crimes faces the threat of being prosecuted before the International Criminal Court. So it's very much the territory of Armenia that counts in that regard. And of course, Armenian nationals are then under the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court. So at the same time, obviously, but I take it that the Armenian army is very cautious not committing war crimes, but that would also fall within the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court.
And is the process of becoming a fully fledged member a long one? Is this going to be an easy process for Armenia? Or could a better option possibly be to just recognize the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court, as some people are saying?
Well, yes, obviously there are these two ways in the statute of the International Criminal Court that you can either become a full member state of the International Criminal Court, or you just can accept the jurisdiction for a certain time, for a certain territory, as actually Ukraine has done since the invasion of the Crimea Peninsula, has accepted the jurisdiction of the ICC, not being a member of the International Criminal Law itself. But I don't think that this is really an option that you should contemplate on the long run, because being, as I said before, a member of this family of like-minded states within the Assembly of State Parties to the Rome Statute and to the International Criminal Court, you are then fully recognized as a state that has these obligations and these duties, and accepts that impunity is no option for international criminal law. And of course, as a matter of fact, you can also then, as a member of the Assembly of State Parties, influence the future of the International Criminal Court, because the Assembly of State Parties is the organ that governs the International Criminal Court. And there, unlike the Security Council of the United Nations, in the Assembly of State Parties to the ICC, it's one state, one vote. So it's total equality amongst states. And Armenia would be amongst these equal states. And I think that would be something to aim for.
And Professor, you kind of mentioned this, but the cooperation between the states is definitely one of the key points at the International Criminal Court. Could this help Armenia bring cases forward as well?
Well, this is the other consequence which I haven't really contemplated on in our little discussion here. But indeed, as you become a member of the International Criminal Court, the member states have the obligation to work together, to cooperate amongst themselves, as with the International Criminal Court, for prosecuting war crimes. So it's not only that you help out and cooperate with regard to the prosecution of the International Criminal Court, but also with national prosecutions that are underway, like Germany does, prosecuting war crimes and crimes against humanity. And it's this community of states working together under the ICC umbrella that cooperate also in national prosecution in this regard. So indeed, Armenia would get help from other states, I would say, both in legal terms, in financial terms, in legal security matters, and so forth, from these member states.
I also want to ask about deterrence and prevention. I mean, we are aware that certain cases at the International Criminal Court last quite long, but do you think that even if proceedings are rather lengthy, it could still somehow prevent day-to-day crimes, things on a daily basis, deterrent?
Well, it's a difficult issue, talking about deterrence in criminal law altogether, also in a national environment. But nevertheless, you have mentioned a couple of issues that are special with the International Criminal Court. Indeed, the trials take quite a long time, which is not because they are lazy in The Hague, but it's because these trials are usually very complicated. And this is why they take a long time. And of course, you have language issues and all sorts of other things that slow down the process, maybe in comparison to national legislation. But nevertheless, I don't think that they are too long to be deterrent. The thing is that what has to change in our world is of course this sentiment that there is at least a valuable probability that you will be prosecuted if you commit war crimes and crimes against humanity. And look back 10, 20 years. I mean, there was no chance that such trials would ever take place. And now there is a considerable amount of likelihood that trials with regard to crimes against humanity, war crimes and genocide will actually take place. Maybe it lasts some time, and maybe only after 5, 6, 7, 8 years. But nevertheless, the threat is there. The ICC is the institution that sort of symbolizes this threat. As other national jurisdictions are cooperating, you can never be sure as a war criminal that you will not be prosecuted at some stage. And I think this is something that we should aim at as an international community, to support this and to strengthen exactly this call that impunity is outlawed, is outruled, is no option for an international community.
And finally, Professor, I mean, do you believe that the International Criminal Court is an effective institution? And right now in Armenia, there is a lot of talk about the International Criminal Court. What do you think, observing this conversation happening amongst Armenians? Do you think that Armenia could ultimately benefit from the International Criminal Court?
Right. We must not make this assumption that the International Criminal Court is a reliable court just as we expect from our national courts. This is not the case. And this is not the case because it's an international organ, and it's similar with any international organ. It's very much also a political organ. And as we have discussed, the principle of universality does not apply to the International Criminal Court. It depends on memberships. And as not every state in the world is a member to the ICC, its jurisdiction is obviously limited. But nevertheless, what I said also before, the great thing about the International Criminal Court is that it is the symbol of this call of humanity, that impunity must not prevail, that we must prosecute crimes against humanity and war crimes, as we started here in Nuremberg in 1945. It symbolizes this, and we should all, or as many states as possible, should become part of this symbol, part of this family of like-minded states, because only then, working together as a community of states, we can indeed achieve this goal that things that happen also in your country with your neighboring states and in other countries will be outruled, will be outlawed, and indeed prosecuted. So I would say that it's always good to become a member of the International Criminal Court, because then you show to the other states within the Assembly of State Parties that you are willing to contribute to this fight against impunity.
Well, Professor Christoph Safferling, thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Have a good day.
And thank you for joining us on CivilNet.